What's going on, y'all? My name is Joltage, and today we're back with the LCUU recap pod. This time for LPL 6's semifinals, the playoffs. They started this week, and thus we only have 2 games. Now, full disclosure, this recording got a bit scuffed because technical difficulties on my end. Originally, we had Hiss in here with us to talk about the game played by his team, which didn't matter really either. But, we hate to lose Hiss as a part of the cast. Great guy, great insight into the metagame. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully we won't have these issues moving forward. But joining me, we have the standard, I'd say y'all have showed up enough to be known as recurring characters on this program. We've got Kip.
I love Zero.
And Zero.
I love you too, Kim.
All right.
Thanks.
And as usual, I'm playing the third wheel. All right.
We all love Joltage. We all love Joltage.
I'm open to polyamorous whatever.
It's all love here.
We'll discuss those details off air. How about that? But yeah, let's get into these games, shall we? First up, we're going to talk about the Albinson game. Albinson playing for the Riolus, who had already clinched their playoff berth by this point. So this game didn't matter, but they were still kind enough to get in some LCU action for the people, for the fans. That's what we want to see. And Albinson brought a cool-looking Hale team versus his team brought by JC's team and Ara, who subbed in last minute. Albinson's Hale was basically brought just because, despite JC's professed love of Krogunk, the fact that he thinks Krogunk is somehow broken in some ways. They've never used it, and they will have never used it this entire tour, as they didn't bring it here. But Hiss and Albinson thought, you know what? He's not bringing Krogunk. He's only brought Meowth. Hale's a great matchup here, and it proved to be just that. Other than that, we've got standard Goldeen, we've got standard Gunk, we've got their standard Natu, which for the folks at home is not U-turn. It is Giga Drain on always. It's Giga Drain always, so, looking to counter team them. Keep that one in mind.
Hiss was mentioning that he believes U-turn is a pointless move.
Yes, he
not
says
quite.
It helps. He says it helps in one matchup, which is against Stunky.
Game, shall we?
Yeah, we will talk about that for sure. But
yeah,
noted Stunky hater Hiss doesn't like U-turn on Natu. But last but not least, we've got Larvesta, who's just great pivot, one of our better fighting checks, specifically of Pancham, who Ara has. Ara's team is kind of cool looking, though has some set choices that I deem to be subpar, at least in my estimation. First up, we've got, actually, you know what? This is likely double scarfed.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which we didn't realize the first time going through here, or didn't consciously note
really
it.
mention it. Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got Scarf Sandile. At least it's assumed to be Scarf Sandile, since it's not Intimidate, as we'll see later. Though you should run the utility Sandile. I invented it, so you know it's good. But other than that, we got standard Joltik, pretty standard Cottony, I believe. And yeah, I don't think anything else was too out of the ordinary. The last thing, which is definitely out of the ordinary, is the Minccino. But instead of being Life Orb Minccino, which is basically a pick one type mon, where you go in and you're like, alright, pick one to die, unless they have a steel type, of course. This one's Scarf, which does not have that ability to say pick one as easily. And it ran into a horrible matchup today against Amara, against Ashrew, against Larvesta. Literally could not be a worse matchup for Minccino, and it proves why it's not seen a ton of play this tour. As far as the game itself, it was a fairly straightforward dub for Albinson. Ara showed throughout that he didn't really know the meta at all. Tried to Volt Switch out on a Goldeen, tried to Encore a Natu. It was fairly straightforward. I didn't really think Albinson was ever really in danger. I think he had a positive matchup to begin with. The only ice resist being Goldeen, who doesn't enjoy eating a freeze dry from Amara, to be sure. And a lack of Krogunk obviously means Sandshrew's not really threatened by anything once the hail's up, as long as Panchamp's chipped, of course. But yeah.
Pancham ain't switching in.
Yeah, no, Pancham definitely doesn't want to switch in, but it can eat one, even if Life Orb.
But
so
the main thing I really liked about the Albinson team was that the hail was paired with 3 different fighting checks that all require different counterplay, because you can knock off the Natu, you can technically Stone Edge the Larvesta, but nobody brings that except for the one time I brought it in the Joltage video.
Just, specifically to counter team me, Kip brought that, but,
Exactly. I've never brought it since.
Exactly.
So, so that really helps with the hail core, and it didn't necessarily matter in this game because the Pancham didn't need as much shutting down because of the ways it was switched in and the ways Aura lose tempo because of the misplays. But I still like the team because of it regardless.
No, I think that's the good point to
it's a good construction.
Especially when you're using Amara as your hail setter. You've got 2 Mons that are 4 times weak to fighting, so you better have something for that. A lot of people.
It's not like Snover's gonna eat a Drain Punch.
Oh no, but it's not as bad.
It's not as
Amara's not eating a Vacuum Wave. Snover can do that.
Right.
However, Snover doesn't want to eat a Sludge Bomb, obviously.
Yeah,
but
it's not like Snover's gonna do anything for this program.
It's gonna Blizzard it. And Krogunk's gonna be like, ow.
It doesn't even outspeed Krogunk, dude.
It
usually
act like
Scarf,
people won't run Scarf. Come on now.
Yeah.
Just because
Usually
I don't
Snover
run Scarf,
Yes.
just because I don't run Scarf doesn't mean people won't run Scarf. People love running Scarf.
Yeah, Scarf Snover I think is fairly standard.
We've got 3 Scarfs in this game alone between the Scarf Amara and the 2 Scarfers on ours
That's
team.
fair. I do wonder what Snover's overall usage is in this season, though. I'm not entirely sure at this point.
I don't think
I
it's
brought it.
But
I brought
You
it.
did. I'm sorry. You're right.
I brought it outside of
but
Hail.
You brought the no hail version.
Yeah. The
Yes,
Jolt It counter.
so-
That would have been so good, by the way. I'm still
yeah.
mad about that game.
Yeah.
I
Unfortunately.
understand. The point is that most of the time the hill setter is Amora, so
Yes.
That's definitely true. I want to say that I think Snover gets overlooked, man. Snover's a cool guy, especially when you.
Snover's very, very cool.
Yeah, especially when
Gets
there's.
water pulse for other fire types, like
Honestly, don't even run that.
Larvesta.
Don't even run that. Just,
I mean, the
like
water
run
pulse
leech.
does water pulse does 30 to a fire attack.
Yeah,
but,
I don't even know if you KO like you don't KO Salandit. Like, come on now. Don't run that. No, but Snover's cool. I like Snover quite a bit. Amara is probably the better hail setter just because you have stuff like Veil as well that you can do that Snover can't. But
and the coverage is just superior. I mean,
And
yeah.
Freeze Dry.
Now that Freeze Dry
Freeze Dry is
exists.
the big one.
Yeah, now that Freeze Dry exists, Snover's advantage versus Bulky Waters is mitigated for sure. Though Snover can switch into those.
And Snover has never really had a way to hit steals, right? I mean,
saying never implies that it actually has never, and it has, just not this gen. So, yeah. There's a reason I run Leech Seed Snover on on one of my Hail teams.
I forgot about that. The Leech Seed Snover. Yeah, that definitely caught me by surprise.
It's really good when they switch into Qfin, because Qfin's got some high HP, you know? You're getting...
True.
You're getting
you get the juice.
Yeah, then you switch into your Larvesta, and it's like, what's up? You ain't doing shit.
Yeah, you
Rock Slide.
Number Rock Slide.
Yeah.
You're missing Rock Slide, excuse me?
You dodge.
I've run Rock Slide because Joltik is a very big thing, and Rock Slide is the best thing Qfin has for it.
I pretty much always bring Rock Slide on my Qfin these days. Yeah.
But
don't. If it's a well-trained Larvesta, doesn't matter.
I don't bring Rock Slide on my Qfin. Because I run Zen Headbutt. I'm 1 in 4, thank you. Okay, put some respect on my name.
Are you running high horsepower?
No, I run Zen and Power Whip, like the vast majority of the time.
Oh, and then Rocks. Rocks is the last.
Yeah, imagine running 4 attacks Qfin.
I've never run Rocks on my Qfin, dude.
Yeah, I've run Rocks on my Qfin probably like 30 to 40% of the time.
I don't think the tempo loss of the damage you can put out is ever worth it, to be honest.
I just want to say, Stealth Rocks in this meta right now are not that good.
Qfin is the best rocker. Like...
What? That's a hot take.
Name a better one. What's a better rocker? Sandshrew? Sandshrew's better, like... Diglett's not. I disagree on Diglett. Sandshrew, like, you don't really want rocks on it because you want knock, earthquake, rapid spin, like
I agree
you want.
With that. I actually think Diglett is the most able to give up the last move slot for Stealth Rock out of the 3 of them.
Yeah. Like, rocks on Shrew just kind of feels bad.
Dude,
Same on, like, Baltoy.
I'd argue even Lileep is a better rocker than Qfin.
Oh, really? That's why Lileep has shown up a ton. No, absolutely not.
I won't with Lileep. What about it?
Oh,
real answer is don't run rocks. I'm just kidding.
Hey, do you see rocks up in this game? Do you see rocks up in this game?
Real, Nato is the best rocker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or copycat Riolu.
Because yeah, because actually Alvinson's rocker is Scarf Damara, and then
no, you still need rocks to get the chip on Joltik and
for sure. Like they're not bad, but like our rockers aren't great at setting rocks.
It's hard to find time to throw rocks right now.
Yeah, I feel that. We're getting a couple good ones.
I think both of these semi-final games didn't get rocks up at all.
Nope.
There's
no time. No time.
Yeah.
Busy bopping shit.
Speaking of both of these semifinals games, let's actually hop over to the next one we had between Zero and KSG. Now this one was a one that actually did matter. Heading into this game, it was like 3-2 the series was in Zero's team's favor. So winning.
No, I think it was actually WAP's favor.
Oh, it was in. Oh. Okay.
So
well, it was.
You pulled out the reverse sweep.
No. Point is, it was close. Zero needed this. Both teams wanted this game to go their way, and the series ultimately ended 5-3. KSG. If you're looking at his team and you're like, that looks familiar, it's because he brought a very similar team in a previous week. And if you're wondering which week that was actually the week that he played Zero. He brought a full sand just like this, except instead of Corphish, he had a Carvana. Instead of Natu, he had a Krogunk. With Carvana gone, both of those Mons lose a bit of priority, and basically that's the exact same team there, which I thought was pretty interesting. But Zero, this time, I don't even remember what you ran last time, but I know it didn't go that well for you.
That was unfortunate. That was the Poison Spam Fighting Spam team. Zero ground resist. I had Frillish ground resist. I had two ground weak mons. Yeah, I got totally owned in the matchup there. I had sub smooch. That was my. Anyway, we're not gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I remember
this
that
team
one.
also has 0 ground resist.
What do you mean? There's a Natu.
Yeah.
That's not a ground resist. That's a ground immune.
Well,
you know what?
But
Fair
I don't
enough.
have two ground weak mons that are essential to my team operating. That's
especially not in this game, because your one ground weak mon is useless.
Exactly. Yeah.
But why don't you talk us through this team real quick?
Sure. Okay, so I definitely had to laugh on matchup when I saw that KSG tried to sand me again. But I felt pretty good about the matchup. This team started as something a little bit wilder, and we kind of dialed it back a bit. But we wanted to bring Corefish again. This time it's Eviolite instead of Life Orb, and it's Dragon Dance, just like the one that KSG has on his side. Although I don't know if his full set is the same as mine, and his is Ada, and mine is Jolly. It's a standard Sandshrew, a standard Natu with U-turn, much to Hiss's chagrin. It was actually extremely helpful to have U-turn in this game. Then we got the Elekid, which was Berry Juice with Thief, as well as Fire Punch and Ice Punch and Volt Switch. So this was sort of a weird pivot that I was going to kind of throw into things. I don't really have a Meowth check on this team, so that was kind of like my only counterplay to a potential Meowth, which I was a little bit scared about, is trying to proc the static para. But the Thief on the Kid is actually super useful in tests, it allows Kid to come in more frequently. Having the double elemental punches with the crazy coverage is super helpful. Even though the damage output is not great, it's still just super annoying mon to deal with and switch into.
So I assume you were minus special defense on the Elekid?
Was I minus special
defense?
That's
typically what I am, but he might have just been minus attack, with only Volt Switch, but who knows?
I think I might have been minus def. I don't know. I'd have to look in the builder.
Because minus def versus Meowth is...
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a risk to take.
I mean, it doesn't make that much of a difference whether you're 9 def or 10 def. You still take 63 from fake out, I think. I'd have to double check that roll, but
might be the case.
Yeah, you're still getting owned by fake out to feint.
Yeah.
But at least you live. So then there's the Munchlax, which we were very inspired by Pamplona's exploding Munchlax, so it was self-destruct, which was also super helpful here. And then the last thing was Scarf Pancham. We had talked about, actually a few people had talked about Scarf Pancham. JC had talked about it earlier this season, but I don't think it's actually been brought until now. And this kind of won the game for me. So it ended up being good. It totally won the game. Right before the game, I was saying to Jax, I was I'm nervous about the Scarf Pancham, so we switched it to Scarf Shrew, which we used in an earlier week. But this actually ended up being perfect because it was a sand matchup, and I needed the Panch to be able to clean late game. So the way this played out, on matchup, I felt fairly confident. The one thing I was worried about was the Corefish, which I don't really have a good switch in for. And I kind of tunneled on this, these lines of eventually kind of 1v1, KSG's Corefish with my Corefish, eliminating the Cottony and the Natu, and then letting the rest of the team do the work. Sandshrew, taking advantage of the sand and taking out the dig, and his Shrew or his Hippo, and then, between Natu, Munch, and Hanch, I felt super confident about, being able to clean up the rest. The Kid was essentially just a sack. It wasn't, I knew KSG wasn't going to let me just, volt on the Corefish or the Natu, so I didn't really have any hesitation letting that go. So I was hoping to get the static pair on the Corefish when I threw the Kid in there. It didn't happen, which is fine. And then he gave up the Natu and the Cottony pretty early game, which I think was pretty tough for him. And then we got to the point where I killed the Cottony with a Sandshrew Rapid Spin. He brings in the Corefish to revenge. I expected an Aqua Jet, and at this point I didn't want to give up Sandshrew yet. So that's when I kind of just went in with my own Corefish, and he took the opportunity to Dragon Dance here, which was the one moment where things got a little scary. And Jax and I had talked about this after the game. He was sort of saying, you could have just given up the Sandshrew there and tried to keep the Corefish, because that really had the best matchup against the Sand Core and could have very easily cleaned the late game instead of kind of having to risk all the stuff with, Munch and Pancham. But at that point, I was sort of already tunneling on this idea of having the Corefishes duke it out and then kind of cleaning up the remains from there. And I actually got really lucky because KSG sort of joked this interaction. After the initial Dragon Dance, I danced as well. He goes for the knock, and then we both trade Aqua Jets. He could have Dragon Danced again, and that would have been really bad for me. I would not have been able to outspeed him, but he didn't do that, and Pancham was able to come in after I lost my Corphish to his, and kill his Corphish with my Drain Punch. And yeah, so that from there it felt pretty straightforward to me. I was able to go out to Natu, and between Natu and Munch and my own Sandshrew, I took out the Hippo and the Sandshrew.
Very important U-turn.
Yeah, that U-turn was super helpful, and then the Munch, I knew he was gonna knock after I recycled. And then I was able to self-destruct, and I looked at the rolls, and depending on the spread of the Sandshrew, it was a little bit more or less likely to OHKO, but it was still going to do a huge amount of damage. His ended up being 21 HP, 15 death, so it was I think a 48% chance to OHKO. So I got that. It was the second high roll. It's one of those weird rolls where there's 4. But anyway, it probably didn't matter too much if he had a Sandshrew with 2 HP left. But totally took it out, and then I was able to parting shot on. And then I was able to parting shot out on his Hippo, and he just really had no answer. The Sandshrew kind of took out the Hippo, and then the Panch was able to outspeed the Dig. And that was the game. So yeah, it was a super fun game. I was definitely feeling pretty good going in. I play with Ghost all the time. He's an awesome player and a super good guy. I thought it was kind of funny that he brought Sand again. I was kind of hoping he'd bring something a little bit newer, more interesting. But shouts out to him. He played it, pretty all right. And I'm sure we'll play more games in the future. But yeah, it was really fun, and glad to get the W.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a very entertaining game to watch live. It got really hairy there with the Corphish 1v1. That Scarf Pancham definitely came in and saved your ass in this one, being able to revenge that Corphish from there. Just having the speed to deal with the Diglett as well, whose Earthquakes, obviously, and Iron Heads would hurt a ton in Sand.
Yeah, there's the possibility that he could have flinched me with an Iron Head, if it was just a standard. I think I'd still be favored to win the 1v1, but, it's possible to not, so.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have even gotten into the 1v1 either.
Right, of course, yeah.
So.
I wonder what the role difference is between the Earthquake and the Iron Head in Sand Force.
Well, there's a calculus on there.
It might have been possible that the favorite rule was to kill the Sandshrew, but obviously I didn't calc it. I don't know the spread that KSG was running.
I assume it would be 15 attack.
Most likely it was just Jolly max attack.
Yeah.
Looks like...
I'd be surprised if it wasn't, at least.
My Sandshrew was 16 def, 22 HP, so... it's a 2-hit KO. I mean, the Iron Head is almost not a 2-hit KO.
So the Iron Head into the Earthquake is the main thing I'm worried about.
Yeah, it wouldn't have killed.
Yeah, okay.
Unless he got flinched.
In Sand?
So it was the right play to switch out there.
That was not in Sand. My bad. It would have killed in Sand, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But you would have outsped in Sand, so it's whatever. With Sandshrew, at least, you would have outsped.
Oh,
correct.
Right.
The Sandshrew would have just quaked.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sand Rush. My bad.
that thing. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to give up the Sandshrew, even though I totally could have, and it definitely would have been a safer path.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, then I have also the Sandshrew to deal with the sand and whatever.
No, I definitely feel that. I love my Sandshrew when I see opposing Sand, so much.
Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah.
I think that even more than Hill, opposing Sandshrew is what's holding Sand back.
Yeah, it's really tough to deal with. I think Yeah, I mean, I think standard Hail should have a water and a grass type on it, no matter what. That should help, but
yeah,
you
but
know,
like Hill is just another matchup. Hill is gonna be a bad matchup no matter what when you're running sand. But
yeah.
Hill is not.
Did I say Hail? I meant sand.
In the current metagame, and Sandshrew is obviously one of the best Pokemon. I know George just doesn't think it's the best Pokemon, but
I had it
a lot
at 2.
of you had it at 2. A lot of people had it at 1 in the LCQ power rankings that I publicly posted. So a lot of teams are gonna have Sandshrew, and I think that's the main thing holding Sand offense back, because an opposing Sandshrew can just take advantage of you at any point in time.
It's definitely fair.
I had Sandshrew at 1. I think between the utility, like the base stats, the moves, knockoff, rapid spin, and just like the kind of power of a mono ground type Pokemon that has the stats to kind of support what you want a grounder to do. It's pretty hard to replace. I mean, Ashrew is good and can operate like in a somewhat similar way without hail support, but you have a lot of really annoying weaknesses like fighting and fire. It's totally
and a lack of electric immunity. What's up?
Exactly.
Joltish, why do you think Pancham is a better Pokemon than Sandshrew right now?
I, first of all, am just a Panda fanboy. I think he's been the king. I think he is the king. I think he's always gonna be the king. That's just what he does. Pancham has no switch-ins, like, technically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at all. Like, a well-played Pancham is not something you can deal with very easily. It's basically never a bad thing to have on your team. And I say this as someone who's run no fighter a couple times this tour, but there's almost no reason not to run Pancham, especially now that Carvana's gone, so you don't need that priority from Krogunk, which is why I think Krogunk, which was a major reason that Krogunk was even near the level of Pancham in my mind. Don't get me wrong, Krogunk's still good, obviously, but I think Pancham is just so good. It's so good at what it does. It's never getting one shot by anything. It's bulky. It's just able to trade with things, just duke it out. Like I said, it has no switch-ins. Our best one being Larvesta, but if you really wanted to, you could tech stuff for that too.
Right.
But yeah, no, I just think Pancham's the best mon, and while Sandshrew is obviously great and provides so much utility and team support, and is also a mon that you're basically never upset that you've got on your team. I just think Panda has somewhat higher highs than Sandshrew, though it's very close. Those were definitely my top 2 in terms of
I think that's valid. I mean, they're my top 2 as well. I'm also a pretty big Pancham fan. I definitely think it is just a fucking crazily powerful Pokemon. But yeah, I kind of think, I don't know. It's interesting that, because I was not really such a big Krogunk fan until this meta, and having used Krogunk a lot more, I've become much more of a fan of it. Of course, now there's a little bit less incentive to use it, but I think Krogunk is still pretty good and does a lot of cool stuff. I agree, though, that overall Pancham is just offers a ton. As you said, being able to trade with almost virtually anything and having access to coverage for literally everything. The ability to run bulk, to run crazy power to set up, having that pivoting access. I mean, it's just, it's an excellent Pokemon. But I do think there's something about Sandshrew. I think it's the utility stuff. It's the rapid spin, the knockoff, the stealth rocks, and having, that stab ground 100. I mean, that's the one thing that Panch doesn't really have, is a reliable stab move that's high enough. I mean, if you run Iron Fist, I guess Strength Punch is 95, but it's not quite the same power as a stab Earthquake. Right?
I think the one thing that puts Sandshrew above Pancham for me is the Rapid Spin, because both can run stealth.
You set that up.
Both can run a Sword Stance, but
right.
Sandshrew can boost its speed, which is something Pancham just literally can't do. And because of that, Sandshrew, if you want to, Sandshrew can run Poison Jab or Leech Seed, and either of those options are...
Leech Life, not Leech Seed.
Leech Life, my bad.
I was just clarifying for the viewer.
But Sandshrew is almost as difficult to switch into as Pancham, if you really want to, because Kadni doesn't switch into a Poison Jab. Lily can't take a Sword Stance into a Leech Life very well. So because of that, Pancham is just slightly above. Sandshrew is slightly above Pancham for me.
Yeah. I think that's valid. My thing with that is like Sandshrew really doesn't like to run those techie coverage moves as much. You really you want Rapid Spin, Earthquake, Knock on basically everything. Then that fourth move can go up for a variety of things, including rocks, Poison Jab, as you mentioned, Sword Stance. But it's harder to fit everything. Also, Sandshrew has more exploitable weaknesses than Pancham. Pancham is only weak to, obviously, as a fighting type, it's only weak to Psychic, which we do have quite a bit of Psychic coverage. But the other things it's weak to are Flying and Fairy, of which we have none, basically.
We have the Dazzling. I almost always run Dazzling Gleam on my Kadni, but I do get where you're coming from.
Yeah, but Sandshrew's weak
it's definitely
to ice,
a lot less.
Grass, water.
Yeah. It's obviously very much worse for Pancham, for us. And why are these sounds so similar? It's very bad. Sandshrew is weak to a lot more things than Pancham. I do agree to that.
Yeah. But again, they're super close in my eyes. They're like 1A, 1B in if I had to really sit down, I had a hard time with that. I even initially had Sandshrew at my number 1, and then I was like, I just like Panda more. So, but
that's fair.
Yeah. Looking at that list in general, I'm on that the post you made in the forums here. Sandshrew was number 1 by a clear margin over the rest. It was by the community. It was 1 by itself, and then we had a tier of the rest of the top 5, which included Cottonee, Natu, Joltik, and Pancham that were clear second tier, all getting around the same score overall. And then it stratifies out a bit more and stuff like that. But I thought that was interesting. I think Sandshrew is just because I know there are Pancham haters like JC, who's high, and
poor JC.
Yeah, and there are Joltik haters like me, who even though I love Joltik, I don't like using it as much, and they're Cot haters because they just don't like Cot for some reason. Jox is a Cot hater.
I do get hating Cot because it has to do everything.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it can fail at everything because something just carries random poison coverage.
Yeah.
Cot is definitely the one of the top mounts I get the hate for.
Yeah. No, Cot is I understand not liking to use Cot because you feel like it's exploited. I feel kind of similar to that about Fungus and OU right now. But Sandshrew's just the mon that doesn't have haters. Its lowest rank was 5. Whereas
and that was Quest.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was 5, and then it was 2 by Joltage, and then it was 1.
Doesn't Hiss also not like Sandshrew? Didn't he rate it low?
Yeah.
There were 2 rankings of Sandshrew at 2, and then 1 at 5, and then everyone else was 1.
Mm.
But yeah. So I think
that's cool to see that it's cool to see most people were somewhat aligned. At least the top, let's say 10 maybe. 10 to yeah. right? I mean, most people had.
Chen is kind of generous. I think top 7 max was really aligned, and
Maybe. I mean, most people had
uptime was
Sentru.
okay-ish, but then you have Hiss, who doesn't like Stunky, and then you have
Yeah, that's
Quest, who
true.
doesn't like Florfesta.
Or Krogunk. Quest had Krogunk at 20.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's a
Krogunk
little
is the
weird.
most spread one because of that. I mean, I know Levi included the rankings with the outliers excluded, but I was like, when I posted it, I was like, I have 11 results.
Yeah.
It's not much at this point.
Right.
If I remove 2 of them because of outliers, I'm not sure if it helps the statistical
validity. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I can't come up with a word right now.
Yeah. No, I know
statistics.
What you mean. Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought, like, while we were generally aligned, there was a lot of like just general disagreement. I think on certain mons. Magby, who I had as high as 6th. I was an outlier in that direction. Everyone else had.
Yeah, that's very high.
I think Magby's insane, dude. Especially like Life Orb Magby specifically, but I think Magby's super good. But like it was as high as 6. It was as low as 18. Stunky was as high as 4, as low as not included. There was
not included.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of variance on a lot of these mons. With the sole exception really being Sandshrew. Natu had a very small grouping, and like
I guess even
the
Joltik
mons at the
was
back.
all the way out. Yeah, 1 to 11. That's pretty.
The
big
thing
spread.
I was most surprised by was that Qfent is included in all lists, but it's included all across the board, and I definitely think it's the least powerful of all mons included in all lists.
Really? You're really that low on Qfent?
Least powerful?
Least powerful of the mons included in all lists. So
in terms
that's
of
competing
power,
with the Panchamps and the Sandshrews and the Natus of this world.
Okay. Like, you think Qfent is less powerful than like Laleep?
Laleep wasn't included in every list.
Laleep wasn't included in every list, dude.
Yeah, but you're saying in all lists. I see.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's
what else was in all of this?
We've got Gunk, I think.
Gunk is better than Qfent.
Yeah, we got Gunk, Qfent, Dig, Frillish,
Joltik,
Pancham, Natu,
Diglett, Lola.
I said that.
Yeah, we saw that. Yeah, I mean, you might be right, Kip. I'd have to take a look and see.
Yeah, I don't have the exact stats anymore either because I deleted a lot of stats and banished making these stats from my mind because it was quite a job to do.
Yeah, but this was a lot of work, so thank you for doing that, Kip. I mean, it's super cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
I think everybody enjoyed contributing and seeing the results.
Yeah. One of the other parts of this project where it wasn't just see what people like and dislike, one of the main points of it too was to identify what people might think is potentially a problem. And the mon that got the most mentions was Zigzagoon, with 3 times, despite Zigzagoon having a collective ranking of 22nd, and only being included on 5 lists. People still found it as potentially problematic. I understand why Zigzagoon is something you load into game, and if you see it, you're like, alright, everything revolves around this Zigzagoon now. But, so I thought that was interesting.
I'm gonna go off of a limb and say that Zigzagoon is better in LCO than LCUU right now. I think a lot of... I've said before that I haven't checked for Zigzagoon at all this season. I haven't run into it because nobody brought it, nobody likes bringing it, nobody likes playing against it, which obviously matters in the tournament section. But I think a lot of regular teams just naturally prepare for Zigzagoon because they want to be prepared for the Meowths of this world. They want to prepare for the what's it called? The Natus. You want to have a psychic switch in, so you're gonna have a steel type. And because of that, Zigzagoon isn't just gonna sweep as easily as it looks to be in theory.
That's definitely a good point. You said you'd never prep for Zigzagoon at all, but the very last week you were probably very fine against Zigzagoon. The last team you brought would have absolutely lost to a Zigzagoon, but
yeah.
But everything else had a Q fit.
No, absolutely, no doubt. I would have lost to Zigzagoon 6-0.
Yeah. But the rest of your teams had a Q-Fin or an A-Shrew or even a Hone Edge, which could help.
I don't know. I look at, like I have the scout for Albinson, who I'm playing next week in finals, and like half of his teams don't have a normal resist. I mean, they have Ghost if they don't have a Rock or a Steel type. But
the Ghost is Frillish, though.
Yeah, exactly. And I imagine if I looked at my teams, it would probably be somewhat similar to this. I mean, yeah, we have to prep for Meowth, and I think people... It's this funny thing, right, where, like, I think that part of this is because Cheese has become, like, a very dominant playstyle in LCOU. Screens, in particular, it was a bit more webs during, like, Snake, and now it's kind of shifted toward Woobat screens. But that will probably evolve into, like, I don't know, maybe Nasty Plot Vol and Magni screens if Woobat gets banned. But I think...
If Woobat gets suspected at all. But
right, who knows what happens with that. But I think there's a couple differences here. I mean, one of the differences is our player pool just seems uninterested in pursuing those strategies. And it may be because of what Kip is describing, where we're worried about other meta threats, and so we're kind of just building in this way where naturally there's these resists, and maybe it's not that big of a deal, but I actually feel like I do worry about it, and we did think about like having something for Cheese every week. And I think it's just that, like, as players, like, we don't like using Cheese. I think that's also partly because it feels harder to build the kind of, like, Serene Grace style archetype where you have a very sort of linear game plan where, like, you have a suicide lead that's gonna get rocks up and para the mon that's in front of it and then kill itself and bring in either sweeper 1 or screens set up, and you kind of just go from there, and there's so few options that your opponent has. Like, that team structure hasn't really been developed yet in LCUU. And
we saw it very notably in the last week with the Coconut game versus Albinson.
That's true. Coco did bring a screens team, but her screens team did not seem to have the level of... No, hey, I mean, Coconut did her thing, and she's a very capable, builder and player, being the LCOU cheerleader. But it didn't have the level of sort of like, the way a Serene team works is that it really takes the number of choices away from the opponent. Like, you only have so many different paths that you can go down to get to the win. I feel like Coconut's team was a little bit more like, here's all the setup mons that can 6-0, let's slap them together, put screens on it. And that's fine. And Levi actually built a very similar team, and we would use that in tests to see if we were prepped to play for Cheese. But I feel like that's something that just, like, we haven't really explored very thoroughly in this meta, partly because the player base is just not that interested in that playstyle.
I mean, that's definitely
true.
fair.
And also, obviously, I wanted to say this last week, but it didn't. The moment didn't come up. But Albinson's team last week, the game didn't matter, so he just brought whatever. But Coconut's team ended up sweeping with the belly drum Magby, half an hour before the game, I tested with Albinson, and my Lyford Magby just swept his team all the same because he just didn't have a 19 speeder, and he didn't get webs up versus me either. So
right.
Because that's so the cheese factor of the matchup wasn't even key.
Right, may not have even been that. Yeah, significant. Right.
That's a reasonable point for sure. I think both of you brought good points regarding cheese in LCUU. We're also losing some ability soon to play those really cheesy styles, losing our best screener coming up here, but that's a
losing
topic for a different time, I guess.
In LC in general.
Yeah, obviously. I mean,
yeah, that's another interesting point, Joltage, which is that I think people also like want to run Natsu the way that we run in LCU, which is as like an offensive event or just an offensive breaker.
Gloomon in LCU as we use it a ton of the time. Though Hiss hates U-turn, I love it as U-turn, Heatwave, Psychic, Roost is a great set. I find Giga Drain is useful in certain constructions, but not ultimately super necessary when you have like Encore Cot. But yeah, no, Natsu's found a like thriving niche is just like a standard Mon here, where it doesn't have to play the same role that it does in LCOU, where it's forced to be a cheesy screen setter, and it's very good at that job. Obviously, it prevents defog, where obviously LCOU has more. I believe they have like more viable defoggers, and that Lullaby is a defogger.
Wow.
But I don't feel like defog's great up there either. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think LCOU in general just has less hazard control. Right. Yeah. It's like you really just have Lullaby and Staryu. And there isn't really hazard control.
I'd argue Timber is the best defogger.
Yeah, I mean, defog Timber is a thing. I think a lot of the top LC players think defog Timber is bad. I don't know if I personally agree with that. I don't really know the meta enough.
Having defog is the main issue.
Yeah, right. Timber wants to have a different fourth mid. It wants to have either Ice Punch or, whatever, something else.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't want to dive into this too deeply, but my mental team has the defog Timber. It's pretty good in seasonal so far.
Okay.
I mean, Quest always ran a team with defog Timber, and he was always getting a lot of W's with that team. But anyway, I think we just have more. We have more removal options in this tier.
We have defog Stunky, we have defog Cottony if we really want to. We obviously have the Rapid Spin, Sandshrew, and Sandshrew Alola.
Yep. We've got
and then you
less
can get into freakier
ones
stuff like Tentacool,
Squirtle,
Squirtle, there you go, Kabuto, Anorith, my boy.
No, don't run Anorith.
Anorith is bad. Don't use Anorith.
Don't ever run Anorith. Baltoy. You mentioned Anorith before Baltoy. Come on now.
Oh, Baltoy, yes. Baltoy. Well, for Baltoy, Rapid Spin is. I don't even think Rapid Spin Baltoy matches up well versus the rockers in this tier very much, but it does provide Baltoy with a lot of offensive pressure.
Yes.
Yep.
As we saw in Kip's week 1, where he brought that Life for Baltoy, and it put in absolute crazy amounts of work.
I mean, I also brought it week 5 versus Albinson. I just ended up losing.
Yeah, it didn't do as much work in that game.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the time where it was good, But yeah, we're kind of just far afield at this point, I think. Any final thoughts on the top 20 lists? Any lasting surprises? Baltoy only made one list. Grubbin only made one list. Grubbin's really fallen off this meta, actually.
Yeah.
Webbs was a pretty just staple archetype of LPL 5 and just.
I think it's gonna come back once Natu is gone, and it's gonna go to LCOU.
That's fair.
Very possible.
Yeah, but that was just something I noticed.
I like that you included like the kind of you had like 6 past the top 20. That was kind of nice to see. I guess people submitted additionals. I didn't do that.
No, these were.
Oh, it's just the average. This is just the average.
Yeah, that's just average, and like those that only got one mention. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think Trubbish is a little bit underrated right now. I also clearly think Corfish is pretty good. I would definitely put it within the top 20. Larvesta is also. It's right there on the cusp. I totally get that. It was I feel very tickled to see Golett right there at number 20. I don't know if I agree with that. In fact, I would say I don't think it is a top 20 mon, but it's just wonderful to see, my child just shining. And what else is in here that's kind of funny? Otherwise, no. I think Omanite could possibly go up. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell right now. Because people just haven't really been bringing it very much.
That's definitely fair. I believe we touched on this a bit last week, where we
did
mentioning how Omanite's kind of underexplored here, and might show up a bit more with Gunk priority dropping a bit, and things like that. But none of it in the semifinals. Maybe we see it for finals. Zero.
TBD. Can't speak to this yet. I'm very excited for our finals match with the Real Lose with Albinson, my good buddy.
I'm very much looking forward to covering.
It's gonna be some fireworks. So
I really hope Albinson can make it to the cast next week, dude.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can plan it so that he can.
Exactly.
He can be here.
Yeah, I think that's everything that I needed to talk about, at least. Yeah. All right. So, if you enjoyed, please feel free to hit that like button. Stay subscribed for more LCUU content and LCRU? Maybe. Who knows? We've got some very exciting irons in the fire regarding future LCUU tours and stuff around that. But like I said, subscribe, comment, ask me to play LCUU, stuff like that. But I'll see you next time, and so will they probably.
See you next time.
Shout out to questioning.